Hi, it's Katrina. From an airplane that left a strange message before vanishing to a disappearance from a notorious hotel, here are 9 of the creepiest unsolved mysteries. Number 9. STENDEC. While en route from Buenos Aires, Argentina to Santiago, Chile on August 2, 1947, a British South American Airways passenger flight known as Stardust vanished seemingly into thin air, with 11 passengers on board. The aircraft was due to land in just 4 minutes when a Morse Code operator at Los Cerrillos Airport in Chile received a message stating ETA Santiago 1745, STENDEC. While the first part of the message was standard, stating that Stardust planned to arrive in a few minutes, the operator did not understand what the word STENDEC meant and asked for clarification. The crew responded by repeating the word twice, STENDEC, STENDEC. Nobody ever heard from Stardust again, and the aircraft remained missing for decades. In 1998, a group of mountain climbers discovered the wreckage roughly 50 miles east of Santiago on Mount Tupungato, where they found several body parts, which remained intact over the years due to the freezing temperatures. The mystery was finally partially solved when investigators concluded that the crew had become confused about where they were, thinking the plane was much closer to its destination than it actually was. Consequently, they made a controlled descent into the territory, and the flight ended in tragedy. But the exact meaning of STENDEC remains unknown to this day. One prevailing theory is that the crew meant to convey the word descent, but jumbled the message because they were perhaps suffering from hypoxia in the unpressurized cabin. But this is unlikely, as the crew had been provided with oxygen for the flight. Some people believe that STENDEC stood for a longer message, such as Stardust, tank empty, no diesel, expected crash, or something similar. But Morse Code experts claim that no airline crew would ever abbreviate a serious message, according to Plane and Pilot magazine. The most favored theory is that the crew member who sent the STENDEC message made an error while trying to communicate something else, and that they were unaware that they were about to crash. But the plain and simple truth is that nobody knows for sure what their intentions were, and we may never know. Number 8. Elisa Lam. In early 2013, a 21-year-old Canadian tourist named Elisa Lam was traveling through LA until she mysteriously vanished. She was last seen at the infamous Cecil Hotel, a budget hotel in downtown LA with a very dark history of murder and overdose. Surveillance footage from shortly before Elisa disappeared shows the young woman behaving erratically in the hotel's elevator, making strange hand gestures and periodically acting as if she's hiding from someone. 2 weeks after her disappearance, guests at the hotel complained about the tap water's taste and appearance. When you turned the tap on, the water was coming black first for 2 seconds, and then it was going back to normal, a disturbed guest told CNN. A maintenance worker went to the rooftop water tanks to investigate and found Lam's naked corpse face up in the water. It's unknown how she accessed the rooftop, which has a locked door equipped with an alarm, and climbed into the 10-foot-tall tank. Authorities initially treated her death as suspicious, but the LA County coroner eventually ruled that Lam accidentally drowned. Her autopsy revealed no drugs or alcohol in her system, leaving a question mark on what could possibly explain her strange behavior in the elevator surveillance footage. The day before Lam's death, hotel staff had moved her from a shared room to a private room because other guests complained about her behaving strangely, according to court documents from a wrongful death lawsuit her parents pressed against the hotel. Lam reportedly suffered from depression and bipolar disorder and had not been taking her medications at the time. While some accept mental illness as a plausible explanation for her death, others remain unconvinced. The case is officially considered closed despite so many unanswered questions lingering, including why Lam was at the hotel in the first place. Has anyone seen the docuseries on Netflix? What did you think? Let me know in the comments below. Number 7. The disappearance of Josephine Despard. Josephine Despard was last seen on February 7, 1984, in the small city of Olean, New York, where she and her 6-year-old daughter lived while the 26-year-old single mom attended college and focused on getting her life on track. Despard left her residence that fateful day with an acquaintance named Dale Verican, with plans to travel to the man's residence to swap some stereo equipment. She was never seen or heard from again. After Despard vanished, Verican claimed that the pair never went to his house, but they instead went to the local mall where they talked over coffee. According to him, he and Despard parted ways when she ran into some friends. None of the woman's known friends have backed up this story. Authorities have long considered Verican to be a person of interest in Despard's disappearance. All signs pointed toward him trying to hide something, At one point, he tried entering Canada, but was stopped at the border and charged with crimes unrelated to Despard. Later that year, Verikin committed suicide, taking any secrets he may have had about the missing woman to his grave. A few years later, his mother also died by suicide. Police publicly identified Verikin as a suspect in 2018, 34 years after she vanished. That same year, they received an anonymous, handwritten letter on the anniversary of Despard's disappearance containing information about the case. Authorities appealed to the letter's writer through local media, urging the individual to come forward and share what else they know, but no new developments have been reported since then. Olean Police Captain Robert Blovsky told reporters that he hates to say it, but he believes Despard is dead, despite her disappearance remaining unsolved. Verikin remains a person of interest despite him being gone. Number 6. The Investor Murders. In the early morning hours of September 6, 1982, a killer silently boarded the Investor, a 58-foot-long fishing boat in the small Alaskan fishing village of Craig. The culprit made his way onto the vessel, which was anchored in the tiny town of just 600 residents, and shot all 8 people aboard, including the Investor's owner, Mark Colthurst, his pregnant wife, his 4- and 5-year-old son and daughter, and 4 teenage deckhands. Shortly thereafter, he started the boat's engines and navigated to a bay roughly a mile away, waving to a nearby skipper as he nonchalantly passed by. After dropping anchor, the unidentified murderer set the vessel ablaze and quietly slipped away, never to be seen again in the area. Nobody ever identified the man based on witness descriptions. Police failed to determine a motive for the killings after ruling out drug trafficking and robbery. Furthermore, they determined that the family who owned the boat had a squeaky clean reputation back in their hometown of Blaine, Washington, where they had no known enemies or deep, dark secrets that might cause them to have enemies. Nearly 40 years later, the murders remain Alaska's largest unsolved mass killing. Police cannot connect any persons of interest to the sickening act and are no closer to solving the disturbing case than they were at the very beginning. Number 5. Little Lord Fauntleroy. While strolling near a quarry pond in Waukesha County, Wisconsin in 1921, a worker discovered the small body of a little boy who had suffered blunt force trauma before ending up in the water. Nobody came forward to claim the boy, despite his conspicuously fancy clothing, which indicated that he was from a wealthy family. The worker who discovered the boy remembered a frantic couple stopping by the quarry several weeks earlier in search of their son. They were seen walking near the pond before they left the site. Nicknamed Little Lord Fauntleroy, the youth remains unidentified to this day. Authorities worked tirelessly and to no avail to figure out who he was, even putting his body on public display in an attempt to identify him. Locals raised money for the unclaimed child's burial at a local cemetery, where a woman in a black veil was seen visiting numerous times. A Milwaukee medical examiner revisited the case nearly 3 decades later, acting on the suspicion that the little boy might be Homer LeMay, a 6-year-old boy who disappeared at around the same time Little Lord Fauntleroy was discovered. But LeMay's father insisted that a Chicago couple had adopted Homer and later claimed that the boy died in a car accident in Argentina. Police were unable to verify either story. Little Lord Fauntleroy remains buried at the cemetery in Prairie Home, Wisconsin, beneath a simple tombstone that reads, "Unknown boy found in O'Laughlin Quarry, Waukesha, Wisconsin, March 8, 1921. Number 4. Vanished Secretary. Cindy Anderson, a 20-year-old legal secretary from Toledo, Ohio, was last seen on the morning of August 4, 1981. Her co-workers arrived to find Cindy's car in the parking lot and her purse and keys missing. A fictional novel that she had been reading was found in the office, left open to a page describing a character's abduction. The office's lights, air conditioning, and radio were left on, but it was locked from the outside, making it difficult to explain how an intruder could have possibly entered and taken the young woman. Nevertheless, police suspected that someone had abducted Cindy. Shortly before she disappeared, someone had spray-painted the words, "I love you, Cindy," by GW outside the law office. The culprit claimed that their message was meant for a different Cindy. In the days and weeks leading up to her disappearance, Cindy reportedly told her mother about some vivid dreams she was having about being abducted and murdered. Moreover, the day before she vanished, Cindy received a phone call at work that left her visibly distressed, but she didn't reveal any details about the conversation to her coworkers. Shortly after Cindy went missing, police received an anonymous phone call from someone stating that Cindy was being held captive in the basement of a nearby home, but the caller refused to provide further details. Some believe that Cindy disappeared on her own accord to escape the strict, wholesome Christian lifestyle she was brought up in, but many of her friends and family members strongly believe that she had no such desire. Others theorize that more sinister factors are at play, especially considering Cindy's disturbing dreams about being kidnapped and killed. One possibility is that Cindy knew too much about a drug trafficking case connected to a former attorney from the office she worked at. Cindy has not used her social security number or bank account since before her disappearance, leading many to assume that she is dead. Unfortunately, her parents passed away without ever finding out what happened to her. Number 3. Chicago Tylenol murders. 12-year-old Mary Kellerman woke up one morning in 1982 with cold symptoms. Her parents gave her an extra-strength Tylenol capsule that they did not know was heavily laced with a deadly poison called potassium cyanide. Mary passed away on the same day that a 27-year-old Illinois postal worker named Adam Janis also died from cyanide poisoning, which was initially mistaken as a massive heart attack. Janis's brother and sister-in-law each took a Tylenol capsule while struggling to cope with the news of his death, and they too soon died. 3 more bizarre deaths followed in the Chicago area, and all 3 individuals had taken Tylenol shortly before they died. Investigators connected the string of suspicious deaths to the over-the-counter medication, and McNeil Consumer Products, a Johnson & Johnson subsidiary that manufactured the product, issued an urgent recall of over 31 million bottles of Tylenol, while adamantly urging the public not to take any of the pills. Johnson & Johnson and police both concluded that someone had injected cyanide into the pills post-manufacture, taking the boxes off store shelves, tainting their contents, and returning them to the shelves. Nobody knows who is responsible for the heinous act, and authorities ruled out a New York man who tried taking responsibility for the poisonings. In response to the crisis, Johnson & Johnson developed caplets and packaging that were far more difficult to tamper with, and Tylenol sales rebounded. Meanwhile, Congress made it a federal offense to tamper with over-the-counter medication in 1983 via the passage of the Tylenol bill. Number 2. The disappearance of Asha Degree. On Valentine's Day 2000, in the middle of the night, 9-year-old Asha Degree disappeared from her bedroom in the rural community of Shelby, North Carolina. There was no sign of forced entry into the family's home, and several witnesses reported seeing a girl matching Asha's description walking along a highway, with one driver claiming that they went back to check on her, but she had disappeared into the woods. Construction workers discovered her backpack in neighboring Burke County several months later. The contents consisted of a New Kids on the Block t-shirt and a children's book from her school's library, neither of which belonged to Asha, according to the FBI. In 2015, a new lead suggested that the 4th grader may have been seen getting into a green car. It's unknown why she would have chosen to leave her house that night. Earlier, she had felt disappointed about her poor performance in a basketball game, but the little girl seemed to be feeling better by the time she went to bed. Nobody has come forward with information about Asha's disappearance, despite the FBI and local sheriff's office offering a combined $45,000 in reward for information leading to answers. Meanwhile, her family longs for closure. They have never given up trying to find her and have told the press that they would immediately welcome her back into their lives with open arms after missing out on the opportunity to fully raise her. If Asha is alive, she is currently in her 30s. Law enforcement has released numerous age-progressed photos in hopes of someone spotting her, but their search continues to turn up fruitless. Number 1. Neo Babson Maximus. Neo Babson Maximus was born as Charles Allen Jr. in April 1985. Throughout his life, he struggled with bipolar disorder, but it was manageable with proper counseling, medication, and support. Allen vanished in October 2007 while attending classes at UMass Dartmouth at age 22, less than 2 months after changing his name to Neo Babson Maximus. He wasn't taking his bipolar medication at the time, and friends and family members noticed some concerning behavior in the days leading up to his disappearance, including talk about moving to Texas or Florida. The night Maximus went missing, his sister called him to ask why his Facebook account had been deleted. This triggered a highly emotional reaction, including some erratic voicemails the young man left his parents. Maximus was last seen in the early morning hours when a homeowner caught him breaking into their residence. The young man was reportedly polite and apologized for his presence, stating that he was looking for some of his friends. He then fled into the nearby forest. Police found his sneakers near the scene and his backpack in the woods near his college. Search efforts were called off when no other signs of Maximus appeared. Oddly, police theorized that a manic state might actually increase the young man's odds of surviving, but he's still missing and nobody seems to have a remote clue of what happened to him. Earlier this year, a partial skull found on the shore in Dartmouth, Massachusetts was confirmed to be that of a human male. Some speculate that it may belong to Maximus, and the investigation is ongoing. Thanks for watching! Do you like watching true crime shows? Which one is your favorite? Let me know in the comments below and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. See you next time. Bye!